Hello, good morning. My name is Tony Myers. I am the chairman of this beautiful museum property house. The name of the house is the Conde Charlotte House, and it is owned by the National Society of Colonial Dames in the state of Alabama. The house has just recently been completely restored on the outside, and I'm just so happy that you've come to take a tour today. And I'd like to welcome you in and meet Ann Layfield, who will be your official guide for today. Thank you. Come in, welcome.
We are delighted to have you today here on this tour. So let me start by giving you a brief history of the house. This building was originally built as a jail in 1822. It stayed a jail for about 20 years. Then Mobile was building a new jail, and they put the old jail up for sale. Jonathan Kirkbride came along and decided to purchase the jail. He wanted to purchase it in order to make it a home. After purchasing the home, he made substantial changes to the jail. He would have added windows, he would have added fireplaces to the rooms, he would have added wood floors, plaster to the walls, also the balconies on the front of the house and the addition in the back. It stayed in his family for about 100 years. In the 1940s, the Mobile Historic Society purchased the house, and in doing so, they had to do a lot of renovation to it. They used the house at that time for meetings, wedding receptions, and even graduation parties. But then in the late 1950s, the National Society of the Colonial Dames in the state of Alabama decided to buy the house and turn it into a museum. They wanted to make it their state project. And this was done in the 1950s. Because the home was not a period house, the Colonial Dames decided to take the 5 flags that have flown over Mobile and decorate the house accordingly. The furniture in this house reflects Mobile's history under 5 governments, of which first we have the French, that they founded Mobile in 1702. Then the British came in 1763. Then the Spanish occupied Mobile in 1780. They were here until approximately 1812. Then we have our American period, and then we have our Confederacy period. The first room that we're going to go into is our British room. Now, as you take a look around the room, I want you to understand that all the furniture in this room are from this period of around 1763. Most of the furniture has a Chippendale influence. Now take a look at the picture over the mantel. That is a portrait of George III. He was King of England during this period. Now we have Charlotte on the far wall. That was his queen, and that is where we get the name Charlotte from. Conde, as you will know, the museum is called Conde Charlotte House. Conde was a French military leader, therefore the 2 names. As we look around the room, we have a Chippendale secretary, we have a coffer chest for storage, we have a rush lamp, it's an adjustable floor lamp. Also in the room we have a pie crust table and a gate leg table. And over the pier table is a restored French map. This was hand-drawn by a Frenchman in the year 1764. We also have 2 engravings on each side of the map. One is the Eddystone Lighthouse in England that was done in 1713. That lighthouse is still in existence today. Also on the other side we have 2 communities outside of London, Rochester and Chatham. And we've been told from people who have been here from those exact communities that a lot of those buildings are still standing that we see in the picture. Now as we're going into our dining room, we call this our American Federal Dining Room. Everything in this room was made in America except for the dining room table, which is English. We have a corner cupboard from North Carolina. We have beautiful dining room chairs that came from the eastern seaboard. Over the mantel you will see a hostess or chaperone mirror with a carved eagle on top of it. This was found in a Mobile home. In the windows you will see some compotes, or really punch bowls, what we call a 1,000-eye pattern. You put your hands up to it and they will multiply extremely. On the one wall, on the back wall, we have a clock in the shape of a banjo. This was done by a Boston clockmaker by the name of Aaron Willard. Now we come to the portraits on the other side of the wall. You have two portraits. One is a gentleman by the name of Lieutenant Thomas Swift. He was in the Marine Corps. Now notice the high collar on his uniform, the high red collar on his uniform. This was used to protect his neck, as they did a lot of dueling at that time. Also, that is where we get the expression Marine leathernecks, because this collar was made from leather. On the other wall, we have a young lady's portrait. We have no history of her other than they call her the lady from Maryland. The same artist painted her as painted Lieutenant Thomas Swift. On the table under the portrait of the young lady, you will see a silver service. This was done by a Simon Chardron. He left France and first settled in Philadelphia. There he did all his silver making. But later in life, he joined a group of French refugees that came to our area, and they were going to start a vine and olive colony in Demopolis. He joined this group. After crop failures for several years, these refugees dispersed, and many of them came to our area, of which the Simon Chardron and his wife did. Simon Chardron lived here in Mobile. He never did do any more silver making, but he did live out the rest of his life here, and he and his wife are buried here in Mobile. Now we'll come into our Confederate parlors, but first let me explain the hole in the floor that we see. This was done in 1940 when the Historic Society owned the home. They did extensive renovation, and in doing so, they went back down to the original foundation of the jail. They left this exposed for us to see. Now, this would have been the original floor of the jail. During that time, they found those little artifacts that you see in the floor. There was a bowl and a little shackles and a little knuckles. Also, at that time, they found four outlines of jail cells in this room and in the front parlor, 6 by 8. So we know this part of the house was the original jail. Now we'll look around these double Confederate parlors. Notice the beautiful gas chandeliers in both rooms. Also the cornices, the pressed brass. Notice the tiebacks, they're very, very thin brass. Now look at the portrait above the mantel. These children's ancestors still live in Mobile. But these children's father, when he was in Captain Perry's fleet, and when they opened up trade with Japan, he was able to bring home that hand-carved teak frame. Underneath that frame is look like little fans, but those are actually heat shields. Now, heat shields were used by ladies when they sat by the fire. They used the heat shields and in order to protect their makeup, because they didn't want their makeup to end up in their laps. Let's look around the room a little bit further. We see engraving of Benjamin Franklin in the court of France. This was done in 1778. He was America's first ambassador to France. In order to honor America, the young ladies of the court wore something either red, white, or blue to show their support for America. We have a liqueur cabinet over here on the nest of tables, Baccarat crystal, 22 karat gold. As we come into the front parlor, you will notice this beautiful piano. It was made by an Austrian who worked and lived in Paris. He made pianos one at a time, all very differently. This particular piano is about an octave shorter than normal. In the middle of the room, we have two chairs that are attributed to a James Belter. He was a German, and he is the artist that learned the technique or discovered the technique on how to curve wood. He layered many layers of wood and then curved the wood and then did all the hand carving on them. The portrait of the little boy on the front wall is of James Macy. This portrait was done when he was 5 years old, but sadly to say, he died of yellow fever 2 years later. Mobile was besieged with many yellow fever epidemics all through the 1800s. We have a Yankee recruit. He's there holding the flag, also smoking a cigar. Young men tried to act so much older than they really were because they wanted to join the army so bad. We have a portrait of a little girl by the name of Eliza Pickett. She grew up in Montgomery. Later in life, when she was a young lady, she married the Secretary of War in Jefferson Davis's cabinet. Then on the far wall, we have a hand-painted fan with mother of pearls that she used as a young lady. Now we are going into our French portion of the house. We have 2 rooms on this side of the house furnished with French furniture. First is the French sitting room or dressing room. You'll notice this period of furniture depicts the Napoleonic period, which is the early 1800s. We have a picture of Napoleon that is done in needlepoint or pettipoint there. Also, we have 2 pieces of furniture that came from France in the early 1800s. Notice the columns on the 2 pieces of furniture. They said that they probably were representative of Napoleon's Grecian campaigns. Now on this other wall we see a guitar. This guitar belonged to Jerome Bonaparte. He was Napoleon's youngest brother. Now we are in our French bedroom. We have a set of French bedroom furniture that was brought over here by some refugees by the name of Betray. It is amazing that so many pieces of this furniture stayed together all through these years. First we have a sleigh bed, and it's pushed up against the wall because the inlay is only on one side. As we look around the room, we see an adorable little dressing table with swan's heads holding up the mirror. I want to tell you about this interesting piece of furniture. It's called a lady's tuck-away desk. A lady in the wintertime perhaps could move it by the fire, open it up and do her writing, or perhaps take it to a window in the summertime and do her writing. She would finish her writing, she could close it up and tuck it away. Now we're going into the 2 bedrooms that have been furnished to represent the time when Mr. Kirkbride lived and owned the house. You will find these furnishings to be typical of a Southern home of the 1850s. We do not own any personal possessions of Mr. Kirkbride, but we do have his portrait and his wife's portrait above the bed. As we look around the room, you'll see some beautiful mahogany furniture, particularly the baby cradle that was given to us so that we might display it. We have in this bedroom a 4-poster Tista bed that is a rope bed. Now the ropes are used to support the mattress. Also, this bed has a trundle under it, and which you'll see on the side. Obviously, these trundle beds could have been used for guests or for extra children. In this bedroom, you'll notice a bathtub. It's extremely small, but it was used as an adult's bathtub. I don't know how much bathing you could do. Now we will go into the old kitchen. This kitchen has been made, we have brought kitchen utensils in here to reflect a period of the 19th century. As you look around the room, you'll see many old things. The children love this room. We point out the linen press, the old iron, the little pleater, the old ironing board. By the fireplace, you'll see many different kinds of instruments, ladles. There's an oyster ladle on the wall. Down on the floor, you'll see a toaster and a trivet, an old churn. On the far wall, notice the corn scrubber. This was used as a mop. Then on that same wall, you see brooms that were made out of palmetto leaves. Look around the room, you'll see a lot of different utensils that were used in that time. As we leave the kitchen, we're going to walk out into our Spanish garden. We do not have a Spanish room to represent our Spanish period. Therefore, they have constructed the Spanish garden to represent our Spanish period. We're talking about the 1780s up until about 1812. Notice the old Spanish tiles. We have flagstones on the walkways that were often used as ballast on sailing ships. The well was constructed out of handmade bricks that were excavated when they were building the tunnel and the fort. This concludes our tour. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure having you all share our prized jewel with us. Please come soon and visit. I promise we will roll out the red carpet